our meetings before were staffers of the four leaders, and there was no time that we were going to get an agreement continuing that way. What we really have to do is what every time before was able to do. The president should appoint either himself or people from his administration to negotiate directly with myself, something that Mitch McConnell has said, something that President Trump did with Nancy Pelosi, with Bush and Obama did before. That is a structure that could actually find a way that we can come to fruition. The challenge here is the president waited 104 days till he came to this conclusion. Look, I went in February 1st. I said, no new taxes and no clean debt ceiling, but everything else is on the table. I want to be reasonable, I want to be sensible, but more importantly, we want to be responsible. And he ignored us, said we couldn't have negotiations. Now is the final time that he finally admitted we're going to negotiate, and we have a structure to negotiate. The problem is the timeline is very short, but Republicans are the only one who have passed a bill to limit, save, and grow, to raise the debt ceiling, and actually make the economy stronger. But look, we could be really sensible and responsible about this. How much is too much? You're sitting almost at a $32 trillion debt. Your debt is now larger than your economy. You're going to pay more in interest in the next 10 years than you paid in the last 80 years. We can no longer ignore this problem. Whatever agreement we come to is not going to solve this because we're not tackling the biggest items. But we have to put a trajectory that we're actually curving the spending level. And we've got to be ability to build things in America. So what I'm looking to, and where the Democrats say is draconian, we're talking about spending limits of what we spent 5 months ago. They think that's draconian. We're talking about work requirements that bring people out of poverty. And remember, this is only on able-bodied people at the certain age that have no dependents. Otherwise, what you're saying is you want to borrow more money from places like China to pay people not to work. I want to get people back into the workforce, help the supply chain, make us less dependent upon China, and let's curve this inflation by bringing back money that is simply wasted. We spent billions of dollars on COVID, money that hasn't even been spent, and they're arguing about bringing that back when it sat there for 2 years. That's the difficult part here. Even the most common sense things become so difficult for Democrats to make a decision on. Remember what I did back from February 1st. Remember going to the stock exchange. I've tried to tell the American public we have a problem and we need to negotiate. The other side believed that you should never negotiate and just lift the debt ceiling. We know that's not responsible. So now we're sitting down. The president, as a senator, voted for work requirements. We've watched in Wisconsin just a couple months ago when the Democrats had a very big night. They voted for work requirements by 82%. And work requirements only go to those able-bodied people with no dependents. You could be in school and be waived. You could be looking for a job and be waived. But what we found with every statistical data, it helps people get a job. It helps our supply chain. It helps the economy and the individual even stronger. And that's what we should be doing. First of all, there is not going to be a tax discussion in this debt ceiling. The president admitted that yesterday at the beginning. But let's literally talk about this, because this is a good topic you brought up. You know, if you look at the 50-year average of how much money government brings in, we usually bring in about 17% of GDP. Right now, we're almost at 20% of GDP bringing in. So what you find is only 2 other times in modern history have we ever been at this point, in 1944 and the year 2000. So you're actually not even you're bringing in more than any other time. So the real problem is what we are spending. Normally, on a 50-year average, we spend about 21% of GDP. We're now over 23.6, on our way to 25%. So the problem is the spending level. And it's not just that the taxes are bringing in more money than anybody projected. The economy became stronger. We became more competitive. Companies came back to America instead of going to other countries. But what you really want to look at is what the Democrats passed last time. They called the Inflation Reduction. That's costing more than 3 times what they projected it would cost. We're watching the president claim that he cut the deficit by $1.7 trillion. He didn't do anything. 3 programs ended from COVID. He actually increased the deficit by more than $500 billion of what he said it would be. So if you want to be apples to apples, it's very simple. We are spending more money by a 50-year average than we actually bring in. For 21 straight years, we spent more than we brought in. No household would live this way, and no business or CEO that you interview every single day would continue this pattern. And that's all we're saying. Let's curve what we are spending less than we spent last year. Let's go back 5 months. Let's put in things that make us grow, right? Permitting reform, cut the red tape. If you like renewable energy, be able to get the permit to do it. Build the roads. But also the other energy we talked about. Let's help people get jobs again. Let's be less dependent upon China. Well, I would tell you one thing, if you're talking about a debt ceiling negotiation, that's not true. President Trump negotiated with Nancy Pelosi. The difference was she argued to spend more money. We pushed back, and I think there's enough blame to go around with Republicans and Democrats. They all spent too much in the last 21 years. But you know what? There comes a moment in time when you hit the wall. We're now at a debt that we have as larger than an economy, more than 20%. We haven't seen this since World War II. And you can't continue down this trajectory if you want to continue to be the strongest nation in the world. You know, when you talk to the Defense Department, not this year, but years ago, they tell you the greatest threat to America is not Russia or China, it's the size of our debt. And this is a real concern. So I haven't sat down and said it has to be one way or no way. I simply asked the president, can we have a negotiation about it? Can we negotiate? Can we talk about it? You bring up your ideas, I'll bring up mine, and let's let the best idea at the end of the day win. I think whether you're Democrat, Independent, or Republican, you have this debate in your own household. So why can't we have this debate with the taxpayers' money as well?